Hello everyone and welcome to the one, the only McFarlane's Evil Prophecy on the PlayStation 2, known as Todd McFarlane's Monsters if you live in Japan. By the way, if anyone finds like what the case art looks like in Japan, I'm really interested in that. I wonder if he drew different case art depending on the region. But this game is a 3D beat 'em up. I saw it on store shelves back in Ohio at the local game store and knew immediately upon looking at the box art that nobody had ever played this game, much less heard of it. I couldn't find any footage of the game being completed on the internet. There was a kind of poorly written game FAQ on GameFAQs.com, which helped in some places, but was terrible in others. And this was kind of exciting. It's been a while since I've played a game where I had to do research and couldn't find any proof that anyone beat it, at least not video proof. As far as I know, when my long play of this game goes up, it'll be the first recorded playthrough of the game. And it's not all that hard to see why people didn't bother finishing the game, even though it's not particularly difficult. The premise of the game is that an evil prophecy foretells the end of the world. The evil prophecy is written in a book that Dr. Hans Jaeger has. He's the guy with the electro gauntlets that we'll be playing as for most of the game. Well, I played as him for most of the game. You're only going to see this one world in this video. And our job to prevent the evil prophecy is to destroy all 6 of the great monsters, which all just happen to be action figures that Todd McFarlane made. That's right, this video game is actually an advertisement for an action figure line, if you can believe that. It's true. I was a little surprised. I just kind of figured McFarlane wanted to make an original property video game, but I guess this is close enough to that. There's a hub area, which we can explore and go back to previous stages, or just straight to the new one, which is where we're going. Honestly, the atmosphere reminds me a little bit of Nightmare Creatures. This game does take place in the late 19th century. There's a lot of that same aesthetic and atmosphere going on. Both games take place in the 19th century, both have gothic horror elements to them. And perhaps most importantly, both of them are beat-em-ups, though I have finished this one twice, and I have not finished Nightmare Creatures yet because I don't want to play the 64 version, which is the one I own. But if I ever get a hold of the PS1 version, I'll probably finish Nightmare Creatures. Anyway, this is the harbor. We can talk to NPCs here who will give us tips about game mechanics. This game has some interesting mechanics, especially for 2004, that we'll get into shortly. And there's actually... It feels a lot like they intended for this game to be good. I know that seems stupid to say, because who doesn't intend for their games to be good? But people really hated this game when it came out, and it was so boring to most people that no one bothered to finish it. Like, let's be real, if the game wasn't boring, people would have finished it and uploaded a walkthrough by now besides me. I don't think it's boring, but that's because I love video games, and I think every video game is a unique and beautiful experience. Digging up largely undiscovered video game content is really appealing to me. I've done that a few times now. Sometimes they were even other beat-em-ups like this. I was the first person to upload a Sid the Dummy playthrough, for what that's worth. So I don't see why I can't keep the train going with things like McFarlane's Evil Prophecy. Talking to NPCs is, like, cute. There's only a couple chances to do it in the game, because it's mostly linear, even though you can backtrack to previous levels. I do think it's, kind of obvious why nobody finished this game. It's dark, it's kind of hard to look at. Like, it's a lot brighter here than it is during actual gameplay, because I fucked with the settings a bit. So it's much darker than this on an actual television playing on real hardware, which is what I did. I played this whole thing on real hardware. But yeah, it's dark, it's muddy, the story is absolutely trite, and it having no originality isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as the characters are interesting, but they're really not. They're kind of insufferable. So let's talk about the game mechanics. There are 4 playable characters, and 3 of them are controlled by the AI, and you can cycle between them and choose what they do, like which combos they use, what their behavior is going to be like, and where they stand, and which enemies they target, as you're seeing. There are also experience points and levels in this game, but how that works is you level up individual combos by using them. Like, if you use the white attack combo enough times, it will level up. And if you use the smash attack combo enough times, it will level up. And you just keep doing that until all your combos are at maximum. And it's important to do that. Do not avoid grinding if you ever play this game. You want to. You need powerful combos for the end game. Anyway, we're going to grab this torch that one of the fishmen dropped and light it. And we're going to find a cannon to use it on, because we can't proceed unless we use this on the right cannon. Sort of a miniature puzzle. You know, you got to find out which cannon's the right one, but I already know, because I've beaten the game. There we go. You can tell that one's the right one because it was pointed at the thing we needed to shoot. As for the enemy types so far, there's fishmen, which just swipe at you, and fishmen with torches, which also swipe at you, but they can catch you on fire, which is obnoxious. Now, in addition to us having regular attacks, sometimes there are weapons we can get out of crates, and each weapon is only for a specific character. It's important to keep that in mind. Logan here has a chainsaw, which kills enemies in one hit, but you have to get real close to use it, obviously. So it's not great, but hey, if you have a particularly pesky enemy in a mob you just want to not deal with, chainsaw's great for that. Though, you really don't want to use weapons too much, because if you're using weapons, you're not using your combos, and if you're not using your combos, you're not leveling up your combos. Honestly, the weapons are inferior to Jaeger's lightning attacks anyway. In addition to weapons and normal attacks, there are special attacks you can do with your weapon, which cost some mana bar, which is that yellow bar below the red one. Up there, the red bar being our health, the yellow being mana. And whenever we shoot lightning as Jaeger, we use some of that mana, but we get it back just by hitting enemies, so you're probably never going to actually run out of mana. Of importance is that each of the playable characters has an element that their weapons are. Jaeger's element is obviously lightning, Logan's element is fire, Delphine's element is gun, and Sundano's element is wind. Delphine's element is not actually gun, but she shoots a gun for her special attacks. All four of the characters, Jaeger, Delphine, Logan, and Sundano, are supposed to be reincarnations of four chosen sages from years and years past who stopped the world from being engulfed in darkness. And, I think that's pretty cool, honestly. After you level up all your combos to level 4, there are even some magical statues around that harbor the spirit of the old sages, and they will upgrade your combo to its final 5th level, and the 5th level combo actually makes it viable for late game combat. The first time I played this game, I was under the unfortunate impression that the leveling up didn't matter, because you see, Jaeger can shoot lightning, and the lightning attacks are so much more strong than any normal combo you have, so I just kind of went through most of the game only using the lightning attacks. But that was unfortunate. It was a bad decision. There are some situations where you need normal combos, and if you don't bother leveling up your normal combos and taking the time to level up your teammates' normal combos, then you're gonna die, and they're gonna die, and it'll just be a limp to the finish, if you can even make it to the finish. Leveling up your combos also levels up your character in general and levels up their weapons, so that way their special attacks, like Jaeger's lightning, are even stronger. Not that Jaeger's lightning needs to be any stronger, it is horrendously overpowered in a very comedic way. Like, if you switch to Sundano or Delphine or Logan and try and use their special attacks, it's like, wow, that barely dealt any fucking damage. But Jaeger's lightning just fucking destroys everything in its path, including bosses. It's great for crowd control, it hits multiple times, it's easily the strongest weapon attack. There's very little reason not to stick with Jaeger. Trying to experiment with the other characters isn't, like, awful or anything. Maybe you'll like them more. They all have different techniques and stuff, but just from a practicality standpoint, Jaeger's lightning is superior. Anyway, Logan's not part of our party anymore. He left to go do something important. He'll be back. And that means that we're going to be a little higher level than him, like we're going to have more experience, but he'll catch up. It takes a long time to level up in this game. A long time. Oh, here's a new enemy type. Or maybe not new, but I'm going to talk about them now. These divers have one attack worth worrying about, and it's grabbing you. They are very eager to grab you, and they will grab you right out of mid-combo. And when they grab you, they'll bash their head against yours until you die. The only way to get out of their grab is either to wait, or have one of your teammates rescue you, like this. Speaking of teammates and teamwork and rescuing, your teammates all have individual relationships with you, and relationships are determined by how quickly you save them when they're in stress and how often you use team attacks. But I never bother with the relationship meter. I just never, ever, ever bother with it. Like, the team attacks look cool, but they're still less powerful than Jaeger's Lightning. A lot less powerful. It's kind of, like I said, a little funny how overpowered Jaeger's Lightning is. They tried to balance it out by giving him the stubbiest normal combos, like it's hard to hit enemies with his normal combos until they're fully leveled up. But it didn't work. I still played as Jaeger for basically the whole game. Some of the enemies have specific elemental weaknesses. Some of the bosses have specific elemental weaknesses. Do you know how important that is? It's not. The reason it's not important is because Jaeger's Lightning is even stronger than the actual elements the bosses are weak against. And the reason for this is because Jaeger's Lightning hits multiple times in quick succession, so it melts enemies' health bars and boss health bars. Like, for the first fight against the werewolf, you're meant to use Delphine because she has the special bullets that the werewolf is weak against. But if you use Jaeger instead, his lightning just peels down the werewolf's health so much faster than Delphine. If you're playing as Jaeger, some of the bosses practically fucking self-destruct. One of them literally self-destructs if you use Jaeger, but that's for story reasons, so that one gets a pass. Anyway, something important that I should get across that I'm not sure I've gotten across properly is that even though you can run past all of the enemies or just mow them down with lightning, that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is fight them using normal combos and very rarely use lightning when you're in trouble, and never run past them. If you have to run past them, you're too weak and you need to get better. Because at first I thought, you know, if I can run past all of the enemies, why fight them at all? Why not just scoot to the end of the stage? And the reason is because you need to level up, and you'll be underleveled if you don't fight them. This level is an exception. The sea creature domain has a lot of gimmicks and new mechanics, and it's hard to grind here because the enemies don't give very much experience, so the sea creature level is a nice break. You don't have to fight all the enemies here. It's really not important, but you can grind here if you want to. It's more efficient to grind on the next stage than this one. The next stage being the Frankenstein level, stage, world, whatever you want to call it. By the way, in the story, Frankenstein the Doctor actually plays a prominent role, but they still call the monster Frankenstein, even though the Doctor Frankenstein is a separate entity. It's like the people that designed the health bar for the boss didn't actually read the story. Because you hear about how Dr. Frankenstein created Frankenstein's monster, and then you go to fight Frankenstein's monster, and Frankenstein's monster just says Frankenstein on its health bar, even though you can see that Frankenstein's monster has the actual Dr. Frankenstein physically strapped to his back, like his corpse is stuck on his back. I don't understand how you pay that little attention. I did not mean to throw that torch. I kind of wanted to light the thing with it, but Jaeger decided he would rather throw it on the ground because I wasn't close enough. By the way, sometimes there's slowdown, as you're seeing a lot of slowdown. And having read professional reviews, like ones published in magazines about this video game, it seems like almost all of the reviewers are fucking liars. Like, it seems like they didn't finish the game, first of all, because their complaints about the gameplay are completely inaccurate. They're like, the game's too easy, and they clearly only played the first level, which, to be fair, the first level is dreadful. It's the worst level in the game. But most of them only seem to have played the first and second levels, or just the first level on some occasions. because they complain about how the enemies can't damage you and the game's too easy and you don't even have to bother with leveling up. That's a lie. That's a lie. And one of the reviewers said, ugh, this game's so dark and there's so much fog. One of the characters even cracks a joke about it. But that's not true. The fog is an in-universe occurrence. That's an active plot point that needs to be resolved. It's like, if you can get paid to not even finish a game and call it shit, what's the point in having professional reviewers who review things for magazines? I completed this game twice, and that's why I'm qualified to say things about it. And it took less than a week. It would have only taken a day if I had nothing else scheduled. Like, where do you get off making incorrect claims on a factual level, having not even completed a game yet? It makes your review functionally useless. Like, anyone who reads that review is going to get the wrong idea about the game and how it works and what you do in it. I had to do a lot of research to understand the game mechanics properly, and wound up just experimenting with the game proper because everything written about it was kind of wrong. And I'm not saying I can't be wrong too, but I have proof that I finished the game twice. I recorded one of those playthroughs. And it just baffles me that people would feel the need to lie about something like this. Like, why didn't you just say in your review, oh, I didn't feel like finishing the game? You know? Like, that may not be a compelling review, and people might not listen to you, but at least it's honest. There's, like, vague information about this game just everywhere. Even on the Wikipedia page, it says the gameplay is similar to Dynasty Warriors. It's not. There are a lot of enemies, and the goal is to kill them, but it feels nothing like Dynasty Warriors. The gameplay is honestly much more similar to things like Ultimate Alliance and X-Men Legends. Oh, my favorite cutscene's coming up. Hold on. I actually really love that scene. I have a huge fondness for that trope in fiction. I think it's underused, but that trope where there's a mystical thing going on, somebody knows how to deal with it, but they're not going to explain it, okay? That would take too long, and it's tiresome. They're just going to put the magical artifact in the hole, and the problems will be solved. It adds a degree of humor and humanity to the situation, you know? Anyway, this is an escort mission. I actually don't mind escort missions in video games. Usually they're fine. Sometimes they're not, and the times they're not, it's probably what made people hate escort missions so much. But one of the many reasons this escort mission isn't frustrating is that you can manually take control of Logan and put him wherever the fuck you want. So that way he is not in constant danger. It's not necessary to readjust him because I'm using Jaeger and he can just lightning the fuck out of everything. But if you wanted to move Logan around, that's an option you have. I suppose now that we're in a giant room with tons of enemies and we're going to be here a while, I should talk about some of the more nuanced ideas in this game. So even though all of the characters have a normal combo, a wide combo, a smash combo, and an upper combo, the methods they use to pull off these combos are different in animation and function. Like, for example, Logan is the only character that I'm aware of with an actual running attack. He's capable of starting a combo mid-run, and this is an incredible utility. When you use an attack with any other character, they stop, and they just kind of stand in place and use it. But Logan keeps on trucking, and that's the most important thing about his character. That's what makes him valuable to play with, if you decide to play with him. Delphine is fast and has guns. That's her thing. Sundano, big reach. He's got a stick he hits things with. His combos have the longest reach by far. That's his functionality. Jaeger, lightning. Jaeger's thing is the lightning. His lightning is really overpowered. Logan has firebombs, they deal piss for damage. Delphine has guns, they deal piss for damage. Sundano can turn into a whirlwind, deals piss for damage. Jaeger's lightning deals all of the fucking damage. You know, it's so weird to think about how far I've come in terms of understanding this game. Like, when I started it up and was playing through the first level the first time, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't really understand how the leveling up or mechanics worked, even though I had the fucking manual. It's a big manual. I didn't really get anything about the game or its nuances or how to be good at it. And I was kind of worried I wouldn't be able to finish it because, again, there was no video proof, and still is no video proof until I upload it, that anyone has actually finished this game. So there's always that fear, you know, that fear that maybe I can't finish this. There's no proof anyone ever has. It might pull some bullshit on me, but no, it doesn't. Like, I'm not going to say it's a good game or anything, but as long as you understand the game mechanics, you can finish it. It's just about reaching that understanding. And that's usually all it is for any video game I play, is, like I've said, I don't think you can just be generally good at video games. I think you have to individually come to an understanding about each game you play, and how it works. If you want to succeed at it, obviously. If you don't want to succeed at it, you can just dick around. But now that I've come to an understanding about McFarlane's Evil Prophecy, it's not a hard game. There's nothing particularly challenging about it. You just figure out what to do, and then you do it. There's not a high skill cap or anything, just a high learning curve. Like, there's tons of little things I had to learn. I had to learn which of Jaeger's lightning attacks are the most effective, when they're the most effective, that bosses are all weak to the lightning, all of them. I had to learn which combos can strike enemies while they're down, which combos enemies are immune to, stuff like that. Things that you don't really see when someone's playing because they you know, it just happens, and you don't register that someone had to learn that. If there's one skill I would say is most valuable in my job where I record long plays, I would say it's adaptability. That's for sure the most valuable thing. With my current schedule, I'm going for recording about and finishing about 5 games a month. And there's no guarantee those games are going to be even remotely similar. Like, I started off recording Sonic Boom, and then moved on to the Herbs, and then Star Wars, and then McFarlane's Evil Prophecy. Those games really don't feel anything alike to each other. And the last one I had to do a lot of personal research for. But the ability to adapt to stuff, it's something like a special superpower that humans have, and it's really important to exercise it. It's not comfortable, having to adjust to new things. It's just, I know it's not pleasant, but the more you exercise that ability of yours to adapt, the better you'll get at it. Like, moving to Florida and then moving to Oklahoma in the span of a couple months was super stressful and unpleasant. But the thing is, you're always going to be okay, because eventually you'll adjust. And I know that sucks to hear, but that's usually how it goes. There's very little that I think people can't adjust to, given sufficient time. And that's why, even though upon starting Evil Prophecy, I was terrified, I kept pushing until I made it to the end. Just like I was terrified of the toll that the Sims video games were taking on my mental health. But I pushed through those. And I've got another one to play still. Yeah, so... I mean, it's the last one, right? I only got one more of those to play. I'm sorry, we were talking about Evil Prophecy before, but... this goes on a while. This escorting Logan to the bottom of the room thing goes on for a bit. For what it's worth, those mermaid enemies, I can tell you that they can turn you into stone. They rarely use that attack, but that's a thing you probably didn't know or ever would know about them without me telling you, right? Alright, we're at the bottom. Even though Logan walks toward the well, presumably with the intention to throw the artifact into it, he never actually does it until you switch to him. No matter how close he gets, you have to switch to him to make him throw it in. Just kind of a bizarre choice, I think.